I on the internet? Am I? I think testing 1, 2, 3, check. Am I on the internet? I think so. Good morning, good morning. How is, somebody let me know how the sound is. Let me know if you can hear me. Notifications on time today. Nice, nice. All right, so we're all good. Wherever the nets are go. Yep. Thank you, Chris. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. I forgot to start it a little bit early like I usually do, so I'll wait a few minutes before I kick everything off here. But yeah, now's a good time to check your notifications. Make sure they're actually not disabled by YouTube. I think that's what they like to do. They're like, nobody watches this guy anymore. We don't need to send these out. Yeah. So anyway, welcome everybody. My name is Kurt. I am a comic book colorist. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Usually on Wednesdays at this time, I do a stream. And today I have a really nice cover here, drawn by the great and powerful Rebekah Isaacs, who you guys that know me know that she's my favorite. We're not supposed to have favorites, but you know, we've done a lot of work together, and she rung me up, said, hey, I did this cover for this Kickstarter. Do you want to color it? The answer is always yes. And unfortunately, on this cover, I had to get started. Well, I didn't have to, but I did the other night. And so I'm like, it's like 85% done. And this stream, I'll talk through getting to this point, and I'll show you all the rest of it. And just kind of talk through covers, how I think about them. And if you guys have questions, feel free to fire away. What else? I think that's it. Is that enough? So let me show you what this looks like, just the line art. And one thing that I knew right off the bat that was going to be fun on this is all of this snow, right? So it's like this. I don't really know a whole lot about the story, but we got this guy who looks Yeti-ish for sure. She's holding her hood together because it's just so cold. Right? So that was the vibe that I got immediately. I was like, okay, it's cold. This is all snow. That makes some decisions for you right off the bat. Because, well, let's see. Let me make a new layer. And we'll get this brush fast. This brush is fast. Okay. So, let's see. Can we zoom? Let's just, whoops. That's not what I meant to do. I'm a professional. There we go. So what that means is this is all going to be light, right? It's hard to do snow a dark color. Okay. So some decisions are almost made for you, at least value-wise, right? Plus, you know, going to do some color holds on this to push it back. And so again, there's just not a lot of room for dark values in the background. And what, I actually believe I wrote some notes ahead of time today. Do you believe that? Like I prepared a little bit? Okay. Anyway, hello everybody. I learned so much from your videos, but I never usually catch the streams. Glad to be here. Well, thank you, Megan. I'm glad you're here. But yeah, look at this fancy stuff over here. So what I decided, so in my infinite genius, of course, is because all of this is white, then guess what this is going to be? It's going to be darker. That's right. You're paying attention. Okay. So Rebekah's, composition here, light, dark, light. All right. That is what's going to make this cover show up from 10 feet away on the shelf, right? It's not about the details. It's very pretty and all that, but it's about the big shapes, right? And with covers, that's one of the things that I always think about is what are the big, bold shapes, and like how can we get them to really pop? How can we get those shapes to read? The easiest way to do that is to, of course, separate the values first. And in the order of operations of coloring, I'm working with a math teacher right now, by the way, that's I'm doing some coloring consulting with. So we have lots of math analogies. But I remember in school a little bit of math. You had to order operations. You had to do certain stuff before you did other stuff. So values is step one, in my opinion. And in this case, let's see here. Let's do this. So I know my background is going to max out at just white, right? Like that's going to be the end of that spectrum, right? White is as bright as it gets. And I know that if I want this edge to read as dark, then I need there to be plenty of difference, plenty of contrast, on both sides of this line. So in my mind, I'm going to condense the background to really just the bright end of the spectrum. Okay? I'm not even really going to get down into like 50%. I'm going to stay up here. And then for my foreground, I'm going to keep it below 50% gray and on the dark side of the spectrum. So as a step one, a first step in the process, we're doing effectively this. All right. Now, her hand is a white fur, and that's gonna it's a thing, so it's why it's brighter. But immediately we get that big shift in the planes, right? And once you've done this, I mean, obviously we'll make this is all, going to be going toward white also. And so we've got a lot more range we can push there. But the main lines and the main shapes of what makes this cover work are these shapes. And so for the rest of this drawing, no matter what I do, I want to make sure I don't forget about this. Because what I see a lot of beginner colorists do is they'll hear my thoughts about shapes and they'll hear, oh yeah, let's break them up, planes, get them to read, all that fun stuff. And then when it's time to, let's say, add highlights or something, to this, then they end up doing something like this. And like, oh, look at my highlights. And where did the shape go? The shape is gone. So you can't read the silhouette anymore. Not in the values, at least. Not really well. You can on the dark side, but not so much on the light side. So I'm just putting this in here to remind you to always keep your big silhouette shapes in mind as you're doing your rendering and adding light and adding shadows, that you don't lose the plot of what's going on. What comic is this cover going to grace? If you'll, right below at the bottom, it says the history of monsters, and the link is in the description. I'm sorry that I said that, but I didn't say that. I also didn't. I don't think I said who the creator of this is, did I? I did not. Anyway, his name is Benji Bajorek. Got to say that right. He said it was the J is a Y and Polish background. But yeah, Benji Bajorek. Sorry, that's the actual creator of this series. I forgot to mention that. Sorry, Benji. But so you guys with me? Everybody with me? You're paying attention? Everybody's being quiet, listening? Okay, good. All right, step 2 is, what's on this layer? Nothing is on this layer. Let's delete it. Step 2 is base details is what I called it. Now, this is really just affecting the base colors, okay? It is, and what I mean by this is, you know, the next step for me is to sort of decide where I want the foreground and the background to blend. And it's very often, it has nothing to do with what I want. It's what the art is asking for. And in this case, I meant to put that there. In this case, what I'm seeing, again, is we've got our main focus is here, right? As far as like why can't I draw a red line? There we go. I mean, it is up here, right? And this thing, like all of this, there's a bit of a, the bit of a flow of kind of this kind of thing is what I'm seeing here. But the primary focus, of course, is like the character's head, background, all that stuff. So I want to maintain this line as much as I possibly can, because it's a lot of contrast, which is a measure of distance in my little graph over here. The contrast is just distance, right? So I want to keep that delineation strong. But that means that on the other side, and Rebekah did this in the art, and she actually sent me some more notes. I sent her like a first draft, and she clarified some of what she intended that I didn't really read properly. But so she's wanting some of the snow blowing up through here. So she is basically telling me, look, we want to soften this edge. Marco Bucci, if you don't follow him on YouTube, he talks about hard edges and like lost edges. I kind of look at that as this. And so I'm going to soften this side, keep this side hard. That's kind of the same. That's kind of the plan there for that. And the rest of really today is going to be about just getting these underlying values right and doing some details and doing some tweaking and whatnot. But yeah, if you guys have questions throughout, then feel free to ask. But on top of the base colors, I'll go ahead and get the rest of these layers explained so you'll see what I'm working with. So this is an overlay layer, and it's actually doing quite a bit of work on this, because it's very simple in how it looks. Is that me? Did I put that in there? What is that? These lines, I'm very curious about. I don't remember drawing that, but maybe I did. But anyway, the thing that I want to point out from this point, before I go any further, the same sort of logic that I applied to the canvas, okay, of having, sorry, I don't know why I can't get a color to show up, of like setting a pattern of light and then breaking it with dark, right? So now I'm going to go a step further. I'm going to go into my dark pattern. How am I going to break this pattern so that I pull your focus up toward her head? And in this case, it's just temperature, it's color temperature, right? Everything else here is very gray, very cool, not a lot of warmth. And so just the slightest bit, and look at this color. It's crazy to me. This skin tone it's on the yellow side of the color wheel. But look at how desaturated this is. It's right here, if you can't see this knot. So like on the spectrum going across, this is the color basically. But look at how little saturation you don't need when everything is cool. All it takes is lean it, just lean it, tweak it the slightest bit toward any kind of warmth. And because everything else is cool, the warm thing becomes, an accent. Similar with her hand, obviously that's going to be way brighter than everything else. The problem right now, though, is her hand is blending with the background. So I'm actually gonna start by, I'm gonna darken this to begin with, and we'll do some light on this to I must have had some rendering on that I didn't. I do have some rendering on that somewhere. I'm just gonna delete all this other stuff I was playing around with. But having that as having a darker base will let us do light highlights on it, and so that kind of works. Also, let's see. Yeah, I want this to be. It'll be something like that. Questions, comments, concerns? You got it? Have you tried the new iPad? I have one. I got one. My old one was not really holding a charge much anymore. Let's see. What else did we do on this before? Oh, the color holds. Yeah. They're doing a lot of work on this. What is this really doing, though? All right. It's reinforcing this plan, right? Because without the color holds, I have competing black with the character and the background. And I've said this on this channel 9 jillion times, but when you use the same color, even in this case black, for two different planes, your mind wants to put them on the same plane. It wants to put them together. This hand might be here and this hand might be back here, but if you use the exact same color, just visually your brain puts them onto the surface, because in the real world it would be different. Things that are further away, they look a little different. They look a little less contrasting. Rebekah even mentioned it in the notes. She's like, you can knock out the line art, or it's another name for color holds, because she basically expected it, right? So it was drawn with that in mind. So I used it's kind of a mid-tone blue, and I might actually push this a little bit more by the end of this. I don't know just yet, but I want to leave myself some wiggle room, because if you get too dark, what you're really doing is limiting how dark your shadows can be, because they obviously can't be darker than the line art. But this right now is kind of in a rough state, like of rendering, and so we'll go in and do some more work on that. But yeah, I have tried the new iPad. It works like the old iPad. That's kind of where I am with it. But I'm gonna make a layer above the inks for snow. And let's see. Do. So yeah, that is why I was noticing in the inks there's a lot of kind of just subtlety through here. And I couldn't quite figure out what it was supposed to be. And then she's like, oh, just do that. It made total sense. I should have seen it the first time. We'll also do a little bit of snow like on her, I think. Yeah, I just wanted to get something rough in here so that I have something for everything else to get based on. But yeah, but what's really going to be interesting is the snow is drawn in all of the shadows, but it's not drawn in the light part of the image. So what I'll end up doing is painting a little bit of this snow over the top of everything so that it looks right. And I'm going to make another layer here and call this rendering. Render OMG, that works too. And the rendering on this is going to be very, very simple. I don't think it really needs I don't think it needs a bunch of craziness. Maybe I'll do the snow later. I've been using color holds a lot in my new book, mostly to separate planes. Is there a point where color holds are too much, or is it totally subjective? It's totally up to you, I think. I don't think it really matters one way or another. Personally, I mean, that's my take on it, but I'm sure there are all sorts of opinions on that. But yeah, like stylistically, it's really cool to play around with that. I've seen books where it's used like really heavily, and I've seen books where, you know, it's not used at all. Like it really is totally about like what looks good to your eye and what doesn't. And but yeah, that's basically it. But no rules. No rules at all. Yeah, and there's that weird smudgy brush that I don't remember putting in here that I'm gonna paint out now. Yeah, there's I was trying to think of if you want to see some interesting uses of color holds, look at Matt Wilson's work in that excuse me, that purple and pink book that they made a TV show that I can't think of the name of it. Somebody, it's blue and pink. It's girls on a bike. It's came out before Stranger Things, and everybody thought Stranger Things ripped it off. Somebody's gonna say it in chat any second now. But that's a good example. Paper. Paper Girls. Yes, that's it. The paper came to my head. I was like, paper. That's funny. I guess what I'm thinking here on this part is how much of this like should I add any what's the word I'm looking for? Like any darkness to this at all, I wonder? Cuz it kind of works, I think, the way that it is. Where is all of my rendering on this layer? Oh, there it is. Yeah, that's what I've done on this guy. It looks like I did a lot more, but not really. Yeah, and it kind of looks like he's got some claws or something going on down here, so I'm kind of breaking those up, making this a little bit brighter. And I do know this hand is going to be light. And I'm going to start with like a mid-tone to sort of build this up a little bit. And then really only use white for the sharpest highlights on this. And I think that will create enough contrast, because I'm very, these sort of things are interesting because it sort of puts you in a situation where your choices are narrowed like considerably, you know, because if it's just like white, it's going to mostly bend into the background. And if it's mostly, I mean, it needs to read as a light color. And if it's a shadow, you know, at the bottom of the panel in the state it's in now, it doesn't really jump out or anything. And so by mixing a lot of light and dark and really only doing that in one place, makes that, of course, makes that unique for, you know, this particular canvas. And so, do I want that brush or no? I want this brush. But if this is the only thing that's furry on the image, then it's gonna come forward, you know? And that's what I'm trying to sell here. You could also, if value alone doesn't do it, you can also, again, like play with the temperature a little bit. So even just warming this against the cool background, there's three ways to make contrast all the time. You know, value, saturation, hue, right? There's only three ways, but there's always three ways. So you've always got options. Same thing on this little thing. Like I'm gonna kind of do this in a light, dark, like to kind of draw a lot of attention down this direction. But also by having that little band of white helps to break up all of this, you know, the dark part of her costume here also. Let's see. I think, let's see. I want to darken this on this side just a little bit so that his horns read a little bit better. And there's a dark blob somewhere in here. There it is. Sorry, I got too many layers and I've got lost while I was doing this. All right, what else? Do. And on these base colors, I'm actually going to turn this down a little bit. It doesn't have to be completely white. And again, I think I want to warm it up just a little bit, so I'm going to make a levels adjustment just for small little bits of details on this character. I'm not really going to do a whole lot of rendering on this, but it's more about just like texture. I feel like it needs a little bit of texture. Oh, somebody asked me in my Discord the other day, what's the red that keeps popping up? I'm hitting Q to look at the quick mask to see the selection. That's it. It's easier for me to see than the marching ants little thing that's selected now. That is much easier to see. So I'm just checking what's selected. But yeah. Questions, comments, concerns? Everybody sleeping? Is everybody good? So again, I don't really want to affect a lot here. It's just more like a little bit of detail, a little bit of just information. The eye takes all of these little bits of detail and interprets it as way more than it really is. I never understood the quick mask when I'd make it appear accidentally. Quick masks are actually really cool. I don't use them as much as I should. Not should. They're just it's another tool. I mean, I like to like for example, one of the things I've done, I'm not doing this on this cover, but like let's say that I've got a complex bit of rendering that I'm trying to do where it's like I'm going to add a light from the sky like into these shadows on her face, let's say. It's probably not very good or whatever, but anyway, when you put it in quick mask mode, and let's say that I don't want all the edges to be to be hard like this, so I can get like whatever my watercolor brush here that I'm using, and let's say I paint this down. What I'm doing here is I'm actually painting the selection that I want to get, right? So, and again, this is not like a good thing for this particular drawing. This is an example. This is too much. But this is now my selection. And so if you've got a real complicated, like weird shape that you want to have a gradient also on it, you know, where I'm like putting a fade in that, it really allows for, you know, some interesting techniques that look like you're doing a lot, you know, because you can get, you've got the combination effectively of the shape of the selection that's helping to build the form, and then you've got the fade of the gradient itself that's helping to show the light direction. And so it's just an interesting It's just a different, so a different way to render, I guess you would say. Um, but anyway, I don't know that I wasn't really going to keep this, but it doesn't look horrible necessarily. Anyway, you get the idea. Hopefully. Let's see what else. Let me fix this shadow that has been bugging me. And I feel like this is actually way closer to being done than I thought it was going to be when I started this. I said it was 85% done. It may have been 90. Oh my god, that's so useful. It's very useful. Yeah, it's super useful. No, 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 no. Okay, I wonder if I am fortunate enough to have a snow brush that I could be super lazy with. Maybe it's a little too chunky. Um, I don't know if you hit it just right accidentally. This is one of those brushes that's so random. It's like, good luck. Yeah, it's like if I mess up her snow with a little bit of my snow everywhere, does that make it better or worse? No one knows these are paint drops except for y'all. So just yeah, some of these but this brush is super yeah, it's got a little too much paintiness. I bet there's a really good snow brush on the store. Cuz otherwise I'm going to be drawing a bunch of snow manually. Who wants that? Maybe you'll do a little. Maybe we do a little bit of. We're gonna just call this trial snow. And I'm just gonna paint this because that brush is too random. Rebekah's like, what are you doing in my lines? I didn't draw that. But it would accumulate a little bit, right? Right? So I'm kind of using this to frame up her face a little bit above, a little bit below. I don't want to, again, I don't want to screw up the whole silhouette. It would really only accumulate on the shoulders, right? I've seen snow like 4 times. I can count. And what is that? No. There we go. I want to get rid of that lightness because I don't know. I like how this frames her face a little bit better. Having it on both sides. I think we're getting there, guys. I think we're getting there. The only other thing that I think I want some of this in her hair to... Sorry, I'm trying to think and work. I can't talk and think and work at the same time. I want to fade this out a little bit going up into the rest of it. Just use the same color as the background. And just the far part, like showing that it's so foggy and dense here that even her hair right there is a little bit lighter than everything else. And that doesn't screw up that shape too much, I don't think. I don't think. And even having like some soft rendering as opposed to all of the lighter rendering, that will help to draw a little bit of focus toward the center. Like her face is the only thing with any real soft airbrushy stuff on it. Let's see. The only other thing that I'm wondering about is if that spot in her face is actually light enough. Like that little light, like the light, is it actually lighter than what's there? Like it's very close, you know? Let's see if yeah, that light right there. So if we do a little lighter, do we like that or do we don't like that? What if we saturated it a little bit? There we go. Yeah, there wasn't enough contrast between that shadow over her face and the rest of her skin. So change that up a little bit. Is there anything you guys have questions about that's maybe not related to this or something else I can ramble about while I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing here? Yeah, I'm not even sure if some of this detail will show up, but hopefully a little bit of it comes through in the big picture. Just to show that this is maybe some kind of knit material or just, I'm keeping it subtle, very subtle. Which is how I like all of my textures usually. And just trying to sell some of these different fabric shapes also, because You know, it's a patchwork thing. Want to make sure that these things actually look different. Are there consistent things that you do only on covers? Things that cover art requires, for example, more rendering? Yeah, like yeah, covers you typically get a little bit more of a page rate, typically. And I did on this one. Um and for me that means you get, you know, more detail, more time. You know, it depends on the cover. You know, sometimes you get a great page rate and it still needs just simple colors. Like you're there to do the job, whatever it needs. You know, you don't necessarily want to think, you know, more money, more detail. Although, I mean, to an extent, yeah, but it shouldn't dictate it. You know, um, and you know, covers are just a little bit more, they're meant to really push the contrast, in my opinion. You know, I mean, even in a cover like this, I mean, to me, what's great about this kind of color scheme on a cover is if you put this, you know, on the wall with a bunch of superhero books, or like near a bunch of superhero books, maybe. I mean, this is a Kickstarter. I don't know if it'll be in stores or not, but just you're grabbing eyeballs on the internet either way. But especially on a bookshelf, there's always so much like bright, like primary colors. There's lots of blue and red and yellow and orange and things. And so even the color scheme itself can sometimes, you know, make it stand out on the shelf amongst everything else. You know, having a very white cover like this that has that big dark punch to it, you know, it'll really stand out, you know, against almost anything, you know, just because of um you know, the limited palette and that kind of thing. And that's not a, I mean, that's not like a rule necessarily. There might be 12 other books with this color scheme on the shelf next to it, but um yeah, the only thing to me that I'm thinking just a little bit about is seeing what this looks like with a little bit darker shadows than what's here. And again, I'm using an overlay here to deepen this a little bit. Just so that if we're looking at like, where are we at? If we're looking at this as like a canvas itself, you know what I mean? Um, Deepening this a little bit along with all these big light shapes, of course, will help draw that attention there. What I just did was real subtle, but I don't think it needs a lot. The other thing that I'm gonna try and probably not use, I was curious what that would look like if the rest of it also had color holds. Can sometimes be a fun experiment on certain kinds of covers. Like if we're really trying to play up, you know, the whole fact that she's very much like a part of her environment kind of thing. But I think it kind of kills the contrast more than I like, so I'm just not going to keep it. It doesn't look bad though. But yeah, I'm going to do another couple little bit of rendering on this over here, and I think this one's going to be close to wrapping up. I might see what else I've got. I do need to do my, I did like a brain dump drawing session the last time that, I came back from one of my massage training sessions. I'm doing massage also right now. And I need to do that again. At some point. And I'm going to put a mask on these, again. A mask with no selection. There we go. To clean up some of these weird selection things that happen. When I was flatting this myself. I actually flatted this myself. Because it's simple. And I didn't really have to do anything on this guy. So I just left it and painted it. Yeah, like this is the flats on this one. Pretty much. What that sound was. How do you set that window on the left to have an overview of the work? There's two ways to do this in Clip. You can go to Window Navigator. They actually have a window that's like meant for this, that has its whole sets of controls and things that I never think about. But what I typically do is just go to Window, Canvas, New Window. And whatever one is checked, it'll just make another copy of it. Like, here's another one, you know? And it's all the same canvas. Anything I do, like, across all of them affects the rest of them. But yeah, it's just a separate copy of the canvas up there. It's called a reference window. Oh yeah. In this case, it's just another copy of the canvas. But yeah, it does have a reference window. Hey Chris, how's it going? Good to see you. What a stunningly beautiful picture, but I can't stop thinking about this character will die if I have hypothermia with these clothes. Maybe so, but she also has a furry hand, so maybe there's hope. I haven't read the book yet. We'll have to find out. How's my comic coming along? How many months are we in? 4 months? Almost done with page 1. I mean, we're chipping away at it. Drew a little bit last week. It's slow going. My schedule's been crazy. That's the problem. I just haven't had much time and having to use streams to get work done. But anyway, I do think that I am going to brighten all of these color holds a little bit. And now, let's see. Yeah, I need to fade this a little bit. I think so. I think this one might be done. It's close to done. I'll send it over to Rebekah and see what she thinks and get her 2 cents and all that. But I had already sent this before. So to me, like, this is working. We've got a nice, it's all cool background. Some deep blues, some light blues, some teals and different things. And then in the foreground, even this warm stuff, and again, like this is just the power of color theory, is this is not brown. You're like, yes, it is. No, it's gray. It's almost exactly gray. Because the grayer you get in the cool box, the warmer it gets. There's not actually, the only thing that's even close to warm is that skin tone. Like technically warm. This just means it's relatively warm. But yeah, I'll send this over to Rebekah. We'll see what she thinks about it. And let me see if I have anything else that I can work on, because I'm actually, my back is not dying today. I feel pretty good. Let me see if I have any non-spoilery. I just want to show this page because I thought it was awesome. I'm getting to color Steve Kurth and Stefano Caselli. They're both drawing this book. And I feel like it is a, what's the word? It's a pleasure to work on. But it's funny, like the mindset shift you have to go from, we're in the cold, we're in the blizzard, there's a Yeti. Now we're fighting, in a gym with machetes. There's a blob monster and a submarine, another book I'm doing, and some body snatchers in another book. So yeah, it's exciting work. Let me see if I can. Yeah, I don't even really show all this stuff yet. Yetis with machetes. Yeah. Please tell me that's a book. Hold on. Tell me that's a book. I gotta put this in quotes. Yetis with machetes? There's a YouTube channel called Yetis with Machetes. That's too good. I mean, it has nothing to do with anything. It might be it's a band. It is a band. Oh, that's hilarious. I was about to say, if that's not somebody's book, it's asking for it. My brain's not working. What's the guy's name with the three names? Warren. Daniel Warren. Why can't I think of his name right now? What is his full name? But I was thinking about him. As soon as I heard Yetis and Machetes, I'm like, let's go with, he could draw that book. Let's see. That's not legal to show. That doesn't have anything ready. This I can't show either. Yeah, I got a bunch of stuff I can't show. But anyway, is there anything else you guys want to talk about before I wrap this up today? I really appreciate everybody hanging out. Short stream today, but this was all I feel like this one needed. Maybe we learned something. Maybe not. Going once. Let's see. Oh, dude, check the description. Check out this Kickstarter. Thank you so much for Benji for having me on this cover. It looks like a very cool book. So yeah, do check that out. Click buttons and things. Click a button that says subscribe or like or comment or join. Follow. What else is there to do? If you don't mind me asking, how's your shoulder? Dude, my body is fantastic. Like, I've been better than I've ever been in my life. So, like, you learn loads. So, I actually had started this. I was working on this last night just for my own like sort of meditation. Um Maybe you can understand what we're looking at here. So, for those of you that don't know, I am a craniosacral therapist, massage therapist, also as of May. And I just got 4 days of training and getting work at the same time, which is part of the reason why I feel like I could levitate off the ground today. I feel so light. Um, but yeah, I've basically learned that what they teach us on this side of the planet about how our bodies work is wrong at worst and just kind of useless at best. um, and this kind of therapy is very, very, very powerful because it gets to the mechanics of the body in a way that I don't think anything else does. And I want to say this to just explain the shoulder thing because it became way more about than just a shoulder thing. But you've got a sphenoid bone in your skull. It's right in the middle. And actually, you can just get the edges of it right here and here. There's a little, about a 1-inch block of it that's just on the side. Frontal bone, temporal bone, zygoma, sphenoid. And you imagine it imagine like a big wagon wheel right in the center of your head that kind of turns. Well, it hooks 1-to-1 to your sacrum. It is a pulley system. They do not separate from each other ever. Ever. If this does this, the sacrum does this. If it does this, I might be doing the rotation the wrong direction, but you get the idea. It's one system, which it shouldn't shock anybody. It's both ends of the spine, okay? It's not like there's mystical connections between them, okay? But this work is adjusting the wheels, all right? And it affects the entire body. And the other thing is you have the temporalis muscles here and your like the side muscles of parietal on the side of your head here, big flat bones. So those turn with your iliac crest and your pelvis, which is what I was attempting to show here. And in a perfect world, they'd have nice little perfect, relationships, but we're all twisted up and you get stuff going this way and you get stuff wrapping around that way and something might go over there. But it's about using these big handles. Obviously, this is an analogy, but this is exactly how it works. It's physically exactly like this. So it's not even that much of an analogy. But you're effectively opening the entire body in response to that. And so, but when you grab your head, like with a headache, you're trying to take the tension off your sphenoid because it just can get wrung out in there. Like living bone is very flexible. And so you have an issue in your right knee that you didn't address when you were 22, and it's creating a drag through your entire body and putting a torque on your sphenoid bone. And then you're wondering why you have a headache and you're wondering why your back hurts all the time. And then we get in there and go, oh, the knee's pulling on this thing. Let's get that to stop. And then all of a sudden the sphenoid straightens out and headaches go away. Like, it's the closest thing to magic that I've ever seen, except I could back it up physically. This is what I have been doing. I'm saying all of this to say this, which is why my shoulder's fine, which is why my spine is fine, which is why my back is fine. So there you go. Somebody asked how my shoulder was. I'm doing really good. Doing really good. Excuse me. Does anyone have a Spider-Man comic they recommend for someone who's just getting into the comics and has only seen the movies? All of my Spider-Man books are old. Somebody recommended a newer one. Craven's Last Hunt. Yeah, that's pretty much a classic. I guess it doesn't matter if they're old, right? But anyway, people looking at this title and coming into this video at this point are now going, I thought he was doing a comic book cover. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's been a very fascinating, mind expanding, body expanding experience. Lots of Eastern philosophy in my case help too. They kind of go hand in hand. But yeah, that's what I've been. That's why I'm good. It's why I became a massage therapist at all, was this kind of work, because it fixed me, and now I'm getting to do this to others. But anyway, any other questions? We'll be back to I'll try to draw next week, more on the book next week. That's the plan. But I don't see any other questions. Thank you guys so much again. I really appreciate it. Check the links in the description. There's a good coupon on my courses. Makes them very cheap if you want to learn step by step and not from this madness live. Check it out. And you have a question about ergonomics, please ask. Please let me help you now. Yeah, the let's see, hold on. What if we Okay, my skeleton guy is a little short. But yeah, it's the kind of work where you're like, you're feeling tension from here to here. You're feeling tension that does this. You're feeling tension that like does that. You might feel tension here to here, but it's like taking all of these things and just lining it up. And the muscles and bones and everything in the middle is kind of becomes irrelevant in a weird way. But what height do you use the screen? Your foot is hanging, things like that. I noticed that I don't draw because my desk and chair are bad. I would say, number one, it's good that you notice it's bad, because most people don't. So for me, this screen let me do this webcam. So I'm right here. I'm about right here. So my back is actually pretty straight. It's right over my hips. My feet are usually on the floor, or I'll either like get up and sit like Indian style or sit on one leg or whatever. Like I used to not sit like this, but because I didn't have the flexibility for it, and now I do. But anything where the shoulder is forward is none of it's great for your body. So just always be sure that whatever you do, you're also like stretching in the opposite direction, because, and I mean this like in like the hands even, like, sorry, I just whipped that. That was dumb. We do this all day. So it's like extensors, extensors, extensors. Well, this is not just hand muscles. These muscles don't contract unless the muscles in the forearm are contracting. You can see them all, my huge muscles just, rippling under the skin, right? Well, like those muscles don't move unless there's like things up here pulling on them too. And if something's pulling on this, well, then there's something right here that's pulling on it. Well, so when you grip, you're using the entire front of your body, okay? From head to toe. You're rolling all of that in, okay? So what you want to do is the opposite. You want to open up. you know, and stretch all of this out. Even getting, whatever you can do with your hands to get them go like the other direction if you can, you know. And you don't have to overdo it and go crazy, softly stretch everything like on a regular basis, because when you start getting pain, it's too late. You've already screwed something up way deeper than your hand, you know. So, but the biggest thing is think about keeping this open, because we basically all have like bungee cords connected here to here, pulling together from all of the phone holding and drawing and things that we do. And so you want this to open up. And so put your hand in like a doorway, like at 90, and just take a step forward. And like what that'll do is it'll stretch all of this out like all the way down if you do it right, do the other side. Like, but what ends up happening is everything across, like, let's see, here's this guy who is doing something. He's holding his phone like all of us, right? So like all of this stuff across the back gets stretched out because it's pulled around. Oh, you're not seeing my thingamajig. It's pulled around by the shoulders. Like there's this big, I'm exaggerating this, but there's this stretch around the back that stretches all of that across. So those muscles all get too long. And the muscles in the front all get too short. And so what you end up with is this huge imbalance that is pulling together across the front and across all of the arms, which curls you even more. So the problem is the back. It's about getting, not even really the back, it's about getting the front to equal the back. It should be a balance strength-wise, and most people are really imbalanced, where everything is way stronger in the front, and they couldn't lift 5 pounds with a rhomboid in the back or something, But yeah, posture is critical. Like my biggest problem, like, and I've learned this through a lot of hard work, is like when I was a kid, I was blind and couldn't really see out of one eye. I mean, I was legally blind. I mean, I've got contacts that correct it. But it's like I would lay there on the floor, feet up on the floor or whatever. Well, my back is in this like horrific curve, and then I'm like pushing my head down to see like this, and then I'm twisting to see around my hand because I couldn't see out of that eye. And so I kind of grew up with this massive like spiral kind of my whole right side, head, everything, right? Because I would lay there for hours and hours and hours and hours. And if you think about what's happening from the front, it's like you're basically, like if we're looking at him like head on, like I'm resting on this arm, and so there's this horrible like curve across the shoulders that is collapsed and just doing terrible things to your body. And then the head hanging to be able to see, like it jacked me up. Okay. So for me, it was about unfurling that whole thing. I mean, and it took 5 years. Roughly, to completely open it up, and even now it's close. You kind of want to find a massage therapist too. So many people don't understand what massage even is, and because they've seen a bad one, they think they gotta go hurt when they see somebody. Here's what's fascinating to me about this kind of work, and you're nowhere near me. This is not, But I like to tell people about this as much as possible, because this stuff can straighten you out from the inside out if you trust the process of it. Because, like, for example, like we have a technique that we do, the patient's lying down. And so here's the rib cage, pelvis, hips, feet go that way. So this is always under a tremendous amount of tension, okay? Because your life, your experience, your body, all right? And like, for example, your tailbone, like here's your pelvis. This is a terrible pelvis. And this is your tailbone, your sacrum. And here's your spine. It looks kind of like an elephant. But this is a joint. Like when you look at a pelvis and look at an actual, when you look at like I don't know how to draw this in 3 dimensions, but when you look like into a pelvis, you've got the sacrum that's kind of right there in the middle. So this SI joint, they call it, is supposed to move. It's a joint. In most people, it's completely locked down. So the pelvis is like wrapped in tension. So the pelvis is just like got a death grip on the sacrum, which makes it tight across here, which pulls even more down here. So one of the things that we do, we literally just put the back of the head in one hand. You put the sacrum in the other hand. And you're just holding. And what that does is it releases all of these connections because they're not under tension anymore. It's just sitting there and it's literally floating. I had somebody, I kid you not, their entire tailbone, it was like a feather falling. Like when it released. It started up here and then it releases and it sort of just drifts. And it literally fell like this all the way down to the table. Well, then that massive release just pushes all the way up the spine. This person's head was crooked when they walked in, and it wasn't when they walked out. Like they came in like this with the jaw wrapped around their neck, it felt like, and came out symmetrical. With no pressure. Only the pressure of their own bodies. Like that's the amazing thing about this work, is there's no like, oh, let me get an elbow in here and try to make you scream. Like, there's none of that. The weight of a nickel is as heavy as it gets. That's about 5 grams. But the whole thing is connected. Like, you're basically taking that system and rocking it to sleep, so to speak. Like, getting the nervous system to calm down. Because where am I at? Head's in one side, pelvis is on the other. We're literally, I'm exaggerating this considerably, obviously, but one of our techniques is just to slightly separate them, put them back together. You're lengthening the entire thing, and you're using their own tension to unwind their tension. So, and what's funny to me is if you look up craniosacral on Wikipedia, it calls it quackery. It's like, oh, there's no proof that any of this. Yes, there is. There's a tremendous amount of evidence that all this stuff works. But anyway, what would you recommend for someone diagnosed with the beginning of degenerative disc disease? You should be getting this kind of work. Like, it can really do a lot for it. Because here's what's happening, right? Here's your lumbar spine. Let me give you some context though. Let me get rid of all this. So your spine is supposed to have 3 curves, right? Cervical curve, thoracic curve, lumbar curve. So these bones prefer to sit like this. And again, this is a gross oversimplification. But when they're in this thoracic curve, they all have that little disc in there that's keeping everything separated. And when you don't pay attention to your posture, that happens in the low spine. Well, guess what? There's not any freaking room for the disc anymore. It's now bulging out this way because it's like a big jelly donut in there, basically. And so that's just, if you're starting, that means that like this has already been happening, you know? But I think what has helped me a lot for that specific problem, and it doesn't sound like it should, is that if you, before you ever get out of bed, first thing in the morning, so like here's your belly button, right? Right about here, let's say. If you're laying down and I ask you to do like a stomach vacuum and like, or not even a stomach vacuum, but like imagine pulling your belly button back, like inward, kind of like that suction. When you do, your shoulders and head will come up. You kind of can't help it because when you pull, what do you think it's pulling on? It's pulling the lumbar like into the position it would prefer to be in, okay? Because you're pulling it this way. So before you ever get out of bed, and I mean, again, so your lumbar has been laying in the bed the wrong direction all night, probably. And so when you do this a couple of times, you're warming up your lumbar, and again, I'm exaggerating, but you're warming up that lumbar spine so that it's actually closer to being where it wants to be before your feet hit the floor and gravity steps in. Because I know some of y'all, it's like you get out of bed and it's like, all right, what is it today? Like, oh no. And it's because your lumbar spine was not ready for it, So, anyway, those little things like that go a long way. But yeah, the biggest thing is like, whenever people think about lumbar issues, and I'm going to draw, one last thing I'm going to draw, and then I got to go. But from the front, or from the back, this is the back. This is the back. Back of the head. All right. Shoulder blades. So people think my low back is tense from all of this stuff. But what they don't think is it's tense from this. Like, it wraps around. The tension wraps around the body too. It wraps around. It wraps through. You've got tension pulling from your solar plexus. You've got tension pulling from your hips. You've got tension pulling from your pubic bone. Like, everything pulls on your low back. And so fight the urge to do all of this like forward and back kind of stuff. That's not it. It's this, It's a subtle rotation that gets this stuff actually moving. People try to do this big fourth. All you're doing is making it worse. Like, So, opening up the pelvis, opening up the legs. I'm a big like, Tai Chi guy too. I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff. If you're doing it right, it can really help to head off some of that stuff. But yeah, it's really trying. If there's anything that's hot, hard, or hurting, as someone put it to me, that's not supposed to be that way. Like, spoiler alert. So, but yeah, it's like, just don't get too isolated in like the back pain is a back problem, because more often than not, it's not. It's the twist in your body from this arm being like overused, which wraps all the way around this way, which wraps all the way around this way, which then goes into your low back. And don't worry, your knees and ankles are also going to put tension on that if, you know what I mean? It says you've got to think of it as one unit and not, I have a low back problem. Because it's the force of all of the upper body and the force of all the lower body meeting. So it's like, if I have a towel and I start twisting it from both ends, the middle also gets twisted, and I'm nowhere near the middle, So Anyway, hopefully that helps. I'm very passionate about back pain. Obviously. But yeah, just move more, people, in general. Just that's a good advice in general. Not saying you weren't Chris, but just as opposed to sitting around, move sometimes. That's my advice. Speaking of that, I need to get up. So but no, thank you all for watching. I think I've said this about 4 times already. I appreciate y'all every single week. All of you. We'll do this again very soon. Take care.